Stalin cuore da una
Vamos con la última de las ponencias.
Okay, that's the last of the. Well, this is going to be a roundtable. So, okay, I wanted to do it in a radio style format. Well, we have to be translating at the same time, so we cannot talk all at the same time. So I'm gonna throw a question, and you can answer, and then the public, the audience, can ask to you. So Bridget Neilsen, why are you laughing? The humor, the sense of humor, is very important. It opens the doors, and as you can see, there's a light around her. Honaby is strong there. Do I say it right? Do I pronounce it right? Both of them I would love to be at their level, because they channel, they perceive things and realities that we only can imagine. And Daniel, I introduced it to you before. So the idea of this roundtable is to talk about multi-universes. Is there a possibility that when we talk about extraterrestrial, in reality we're talking about beings, they are in other dimensions? What do we understand when we talk about?
Channel 3 for English translator. Daniel preguntaba, ¿qué entendemos por concepto de
what do we understand as a concept of multi-universe?
What do you understand for interdimensional beings? At the end, it's exactly as we want to make it, you know. So what do you understand as for interdimensional beings?
What do I understand them to be?
Yes. What is that? What could be an interdimensional being?
I think we were talking about the topic being interdimensional and multidimensional and higher dimensional being. And when you get to those levels, it really does feel like it all becomes one thing, because they become so multidimensional. So it's going from that place, I mean, for me at least, going from the physical and expanding that frequency to quasi-physical and non-physical, and then going on and on and on, which then becomes interdimensional and hyperdimensional.
What about you?
The way I see it is that we are all multi-dimensional beings, actually. Whether we can remember and recognize that is something different. To be multi-dimensional is to recognize that you are existing, each and every one of you in this room, on multiple levels. The thing that separates these different levels is frequency and vibration.
For me, it's a little bit different, because as I was explaining to all of you in the conference, man and woman itself, as a person, is not only one person, it's not only physical body, but we're speaking about a soul, a spirit, and also a body, a physical body. But what is very interesting for us to understand is that our energetic body, what we can call soul, the soul is not just one body, but 9 different bodies within the same. So we can speak about multidimensional beings by speaking about human beings, because we are multidimensional. See, what is important for us to understand is, if we are physical in this dimension, meanwhile we are thinking, we are also energetic in the very same moment, because we are thinking, we are in this very moment multidimensional. And then if we can apply this to any other kind of beings in the universe, so we are able also to understand that maybe they have not 9 but maybe 11 or 15 energetical bodies. All depends on the dimension that supports the matter, if they had matter, or well, maybe they don't have matter. And then we have the possibility to speak about beings of only light, beings of only thought, or beings of only emotion or intention. So it's not only devoted to people from all over the universe, but it's also devoted about ourselves. We are multidimensional beings, in my opinion, this. In my opinion, this.
Also, I wanted to add to that in order to recognize ourselves as multidimensional, it requires a paradigm shift, a shift in our perception, how we are perceiving the world. So we could say that the mainstream consciousness is only seeing things from a physical perspective. And this is what is creating many distortions and confusion amongst many people. When we start to see ourselves and each other as multi-dimensional, as brother and sister, then a whole new reality opens up to us. The impossible becomes the possible and much more.
I agree with you.
Entonces,
So,
the behinds are on use.
Hay otros
A nuestro alrededor.
is there any beings around us at this moment, here?
It's interesting because I don't understand, but I do understand.
She's multidimensional in this very moment. She's getting the intention, not the words, actually.
As we're having this conversation, she's speaking to me in Spanish in my ear. So it's really funny. But it's a perfect symbol, actually. So I can't quite perceive the question, but I can, to some degree, understand through just tuning in and telepathy. And it feels like part of this conversation is bringing in the multidimensional nature of bringing together two languages. This is really special to me to be able to do this, because I've only been able to connect with English-speaking people, and so to be on a new bandwidth, like to be like, oh, I'm on channel 3, you know, like it's a symbolic of tapping into the multidimensional space in which we exist in. And one of the ways that humans have become separate is through language. And this we're working with technologies and different things to where there won't be barriers or boundaries anymore, and that's symbol of us becoming more multidimensional. And so, are they around us? Are they existing on these other levels? Was that kind of the question?
Exactly that one.
Was that the question?
That he meant. If there are several beings around us in this very moment, because they are multidimensional, so maybe us.
Yes, and so yes, they are, and it takes that attunement of just even almost it's almost like squinting, right? Where I don't speak Spanish, but I knew what he said, and it's like we don't speak multidimensional language, but we actually do, and so it's kind of giving that extra presence and attention to our extrasensory perceptions that are beyond, just sight and sound, and they are totally with us. They're the ones that are helping generate everything that's happening in this room right now. So absolutely.
Yes, that was a great answer. Thank you, Bridget. I think certainly there's many different ways to look at this question. Because when we are dealing with multidimensional reality, it is calling into question everything that we have been taught about our world and the universe. We have been deeply conditioned, especially in the modern world, that we are living in a, we can only believe what we see with our eyes. But actually, it's the other way around. Believing is seeing. And these beings, like I said, many of them can actually be aspects of ourselves. We have to think and feel in a much broader spectrum than what we have been doing before. If you are having, actually, let me just quickly ask the audience, how many people in the audience are having contact experiences of some kind? Okay, great.
Nice.
Yes, wonderful.
Wow.
Yes, these beings are actually reaching out to more and more people. They are encouraging people to really be in their heart and to share with their brother and sister. Because when we are sharing, we are giving permission to each other to do the same. So yes, the short answer, sorry I went into a long answer there, is that they are with us, but they are operating from non-linear perspective, and we are in this human incarnation operating from a linear perspective. So it creates all kinds of interesting challenges for us.
And I agree with both of you. And in my case also, can say that perception, in fact, is the key of this thing. To perceive, not to see, to perceive. Because it's not only by seeing. Some of you, I'm pretty sure, maybe cannot see but hear. Not the clairvoyancy, but clairvoyancy. So it's very important to understand and to remember that not every single thing that is existing in this room is possible to be seen. In fact, the secret, as far as I have been understanding in these years, is to learn how to turn off the brain. Because the brain is the responsible, of course, if you study the body, it's very possible to understand that the body itself, the physical body, is just the body. But the spirit connects with the heart directly, no interference with the heart. And the brain is connected to the soul. So the soul is the responsible for doubt, for tiredness, for fear, but not the heart. The heart is responsible for happiness, for courage, for many other things. So if we are able to, not to learn, but let me use this word, dislearn, forget everything that the brain has taught us in these years, and we start to use the heart to listen to spirit, you're just in touch directly with God. So it's not more any need to be multidimensional, because you have all the dimensions in the very same moment, and that moment is the language of the heart. And this is very difficult to understand, but very easy to put in practice. So the secret is how to perceive. So I agree with both of them, because it's exactly this what is necessary to understand the multidimensionality, to understand how to isolate from that, let's say, matrix, let's say paradigm, and understand what is really within and inside us, which is the real being, not just the...
De hecho, déjame aportar, ver es creer, pero sentir es estar seguro.
Nice.
Querías preguntar, antes de que yo siga la carga, vamos a pasarle el micrófono.
Y así se hace una buena mesa redonda.
I want to ask you said about this learn not to use your brain too much to think, but how do you do that? By meditation or by meditation?
Let me reply to you. Of course, I want to listen to both of them, but for me, meditation is the old way to make it. But this is the fashion way, this very moment. Just meditate, meditate, meditate. Meditate is to focus in something which is outside you. There is a new word, I can give it to you, and this is to, how could you say it? To vision, to focus in your spirit, to be there. Like you project, in fact, the name of this is projection, spiritual projection. If you project, and just remember, it's not from here, not from the third eye, not from Anya chakra, where your thoughts comes out, but from here, from Manipura, from the chakra number 3. They spread out from here, but it's something that is needing to be outside, so kind of tentacles to perceive. And this is what you will use for meditating. No, if you project your spirit from your heart, like to put an idea outside you, but this idea is yourself, is the way you can perceive everything. Is, for instance, to travel in time. If you are able to imagine, for instance, your last vacation to where do you want? Cancun. Okay, you went to Cancun. Just remember Cancun. Just remember that nice hotel, that nice food you ate, whatever. And just imagine in this very moment, you are there. You didn't need 2 hours or 3 hours. No, just you are there because you are remembering. What if you project a part of yourself to Cancun in this very moment? But by believing, not doubt, if I do it, well, how can I do it? Should I make it? No, just project yourself. You will be there. For sure you will be there. I can tell you for sure you will be there. And this is not only multidimensionality, but multiplicity. How do you say it in Spanish to say ubiquidad? So ubiquity, to be in several places at the very same moment. This is multidimensionality at the highest level, but it all depends on your spirit, not on your brain. And meditation is connected with the brain. The secret here is not to use the brain any longer. In my opinion, in my experience. I don't know if you agree with this, girls.
Well, I think there are always infinite perspectives and many different ways to answer a question. So the way I see it is that the brain is a very useful tool. But it was designed for specific things. Just like when you are eating breakfast, you do not use a knife to eat the breakfast because you will cut open your mouth and be sorry about it after. And spill some blood also. You use a spoon, you know. It's much more efficient and enjoyable experience. And similarly, the heart has been designed to be used in a specific way, but what has happened in our modern culture is that the brain has been given more weight, in a sense, more elevation. And there are infinite ways to be more in your heart. One of the number one ways is to tap into empathy, to begin to put yourself in the skin, in the shoes of others, to recognize another as yourself, as your brother or sister. It's finding ways that are most in resonance with you. Everyone is unique. Different things resonate with different people. I am of the opinion that the brain and the heart are like a marriage, you know. They are yearning to come together in union and no longer have these boundaries between them. in ancient times, this is how it was, and I believe that this is what is returning to our earth.
Conciencia. Y el día que entendamos que esto es una camisa, nuestra conciencia puede expandirse con esas otras conciencias.
I feel like it's also our spaceship to experience consciousness as well.
Yes, yes.
It does feel trapped in a certain way, and I feel like that can be truly overcome by fully accessing its magic. So when it's fully activated, and to answer your question too, along with what they've shared, which is amazing, is to go with the head and the heart and merging, is to come back fully into the body and to come fully back into presence and to come into witness of the moment. We spend most of our time, or our mind spends most of its time in the past, in the future, and when we're truly present, which is a form of meditation, I guess you could say, which is really what it's all about, that's when the perceptible is able to be captured. And in that space, when we're present and we're thus in tune with the body, it can be a receptor of all different kinds of energies and a communication tool to then go back and forth as well. So I feel like it is possible to bring the body with us into full consciousness, and that's where, when that happens, we then can teleport and stuff like that. So it can be our spaceship, and it is our vessel of experience in the physical, which I think is beautiful, and it becomes a gel cell when it's not fully alive yet, I guess, in my perception.
Fantástico. Teníamos preguntas, caballero.
Hi. Nice to, you were saying about this, about our heart and our brain, and because in this table you are two women, I would like to ask you if you could tell to the audience if you think that we lost our feminine side in order, if we want to...
Yo no.
If we want to plug again with these higher dimensions, maybe we need to find again this feminine side in our society, to plug again with our heart, our emotions, and how to unplug the brain, as you were saying. No, and maybe is this going to be the key for us to ascend as society and individuals, like it was in Atlantis and previous times, I think. What do you think about? Thanks.
Great question. Yes, definitely. There's been, it was in that space of the feminine and that honoring, and now it's swung to the masculine, and now it's swinging kind of back to the feminine and manifesting in forms of feminism or different things like that. And to my perception, it is opening more to the feminine, and I think that's naturally inherent in the new generations coming up. I mean, I see the men as incredibly feminine, incredibly empathic, incredibly in touch with their emotions. The new ones coming up that hasn't been suppressed. So I think it's inherently coming in our genetics and consciousness that we can't wipe it out at this point. For me, the balance comes between making sure to embrace the masculine as we fully open back up to the feminine. So not to just like squash that down, because then it's swinging the pendulum in different directions. So for me, it would be the full balance and the full union of both, and seeing the place for both.
Yes, thank you. That's a great question and a great response there. I feel that the goddess, divine goddess, is returning to Gaia, whether we like it or not. And so people are going to have to adjust to these incoming frequencies. Many of these beings that I am in contact with, they have a similar message, and they are saying that just as the person who asked the question said that this energy is going to serve as a catalyst for transformation and change on a worldwide scale, and they are actually encouraging the woman to really step forward, to really believe more in herself, and for each of us to embrace both the divine masculine and divine feminine within us, because as you will all know that on some level we have duality and contrast, and it can be something very beautiful and also something very challenging. But on another level, there is, your spirit is not feminine, it's not masculine, it's not from America, it's not from, wherever, China, all these different places. It's free of all these labels. But these labels are useful also. They can make our time here on Earth fun and interesting, and they can help us to put things into context and help people to relate better to us when we are using particular terms. So, many of the enlightened ET societies actually have a dominant feminine energy. It's not a coincidence. The feminine represents the mother, nurturing, receptivity, heart, intuition. And this is what is returning to our planet, and this is what each of you is being called to open up to and embrace. But there's also a lot of fear around this energy because, many people are afraid to be vulnerable. But it's remembering that there is a strength through vulnerability and strength through sensitivity. And but also I wanted to say that sometimes we can ostracize or alienate or make the masculine feel bad or something like that. It's not about that. It's not about superiority or hierarchy. This is an old paradigm that has to fall. It's crumbling. The new paradigm is inclusivity for everyone, and everyone to recognize themselves as creators.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. The only thing I could add to this magnificent answer is don't forget the biorhythm. The biorhythm could be personal, could be planetary, could be cosmic. And in this era, you remember every era is by 2,000 years more or less. This era is Aquarius, and Aquarius is feminine. That's the reason because the sacred feminine part of the life is now coming out from everywhere. That's the reason because there is that too much persons that are approaching the feminine side, like homosexuality, for instance, because they are not understanding many things, and they need to express this part with love, with intuition, not by judging, but by understanding, by sharing, not by taking away. So it's very important also to take that part in consideration. This is the era, and in 20, maybe 30, 50 years, will be plenty feminine in that moment, because the transition is about 50 years before and 50 years after. And we, in this very moment, that in just 17 years. So we're in the transition, but the symptoms are very visible to everyone. So it's something very natural. But of course, if they are able to have this possibility to be more feminine and have this sweetness and this possibility, let's get the example. And by the way, by answering the question you made before, yes, there is a lot of these beings here, 2 behind you, 1 in there, 3 or 4 in there, here, some tall, some very bright, and 3 behind us. So there's a lot of these beings around us. You can say extraterrestrial, you can say they are angels, you can say whatever you want, but they are there. So yes, we are in this very moment with more persons that we can see.
In reality, that was a trap, so I could do the second question.
Si hay seres a nuestro alrededor, entendemos o creemos aparentemente que son seres que están en este mismo tiempo con nosotros, pero a la vez hay seres que son de otro tiempo y seres que serán de un tiempo futuro. Es decir, que el espacio y el tiempo dejan de ser dos cosas separadas para unirse. Esa revolución, ¿la creéis que puede ayudar la física cuántica a entenderlo? Es compleja la pregunta, ¿no, traductores?
Bueno, sí, a little bit. Bueno, anyhow, for me, yes, of course, it's going to be a very important tool in this moment because quantum physics is in this very moment something, first of all, that is fashion. In this moment is fashion, like, I don't know, like to be vegetarian, for instance. But besides to be a good tool,
It's more fashionable to be a vegan now, actually.
yes, actually, yes, you're right. See, but what is important in this case about the quantum physics is, yes, of course, it is possible because it's necessary to understand quantum, what means, in this quantum leap, what does it mean? Do you understand what a quantum leap means? Because we use this phrase, but do you understand what really is? It's interesting to know this. If we are in the linear system, for instance, we are in a line, like we can say inertia, and you start just in this with no bridge between, this is quantum leap. And could be from thought, from feeling, could be from word to fact. So there is no apparent connection with this. And time is one of these dimensions because what we say the fourth dimension is time. It's the very same, we cannot say place, but we can say frequency or vibration of death, dreams, astral travel, thought. Time is the very same. So of course it's possible, and of course quantum physics can help us to understand and to approach to this. In my opinion, is very useful in this very moment. Later, no, I agree with her, but in this very moment could be useful.
¿Habéis visto la película Interestelar? Más allá del planteamiento extraterrestre, esa idea de que un individuo es capaz de volver a su propio pasado para ayudar y modificar el futuro, es una idea de multiuniverso.
Yes. Delayed. Great job, though. Yeah, it's incredible. I'm trying to catch the last part of the question, or like the statement.
Sí, que el hecho, la posibilidad de que mi yo de ahora viaje al futuro y pueda modificar cosas del pasado para cambiar la historia.
Yeah. Not on a change history level, but maybe on a change history level. I have fully experienced those kinds of things, where I have experienced the multidimensional levels of myself, me perceiving the future self and doing things in the future actually with contact, and seeing first contact at the locations that I'm assigned to in Sedona and in America. And I've seen that happen, and I've seen like my future self showing me what to do and me altering it, and then that determining my present and that engagement. And I feel like that engagement is critically important to where we're at, because to see, because in ways like we have to be able to see it, to perceive it, to then make it happen in the future, you know? So there is that engagement and that prophetic opening. And I know that a lot of you have probably in contact experiences are experiencing something that hasn't happened yet, but it has happened because it's going to be happening in the future, you know, or something that's happened in the past. And so a lot of these experiences are happening on these different levels to show us the multidimensional nature, so that we understand what to do with it and are tapped into that, so that we can create from that space.
Yes, to answer the question about quantum physics, I feel that quantum physics is the cutting edge of science and an integral part of our exploration of multidimensional reality. But it's also remembering that there are many seats at the table, and quantum science is just one seat of many. And we are being encouraged to be more inclusive of other pathways other than the sciences. One of the guidance that I received from these beings that I'm in contact with, I will talk about it at my talk on the 21st. They told me that they are very happy that there are international conferences like this one right now. But they were saying that there is too much dominance of the science, intellectual analysis, and that we need to bring back a balance. We need to give equal recognition to other pathways that might contradict science, actually. When we are doing that, we are building a more holistic picture, and we are more empowered. If we go to one extreme, if we are more in the heart to such an extreme, then it can cause problems, actually. You can imagine everyone just running around saying, hey, you know, I love you, and it could be misinterpreted and who knows what, you know. So it is, these beings are encouraging us to create equilibrium, to create balance. And as for the other question about Interstellar, yes, I think it's a fantastic movie. I feel that movies in general have a great potential to tap into the collective consciousness. In fact, they are already doing that. But many of the movies are instigating, perpetuating fear. But I'm sure you will all remember the movie E.T. You know, every time I watch that movie, I am crying a lot. It's very heartwarming.
Me too.
Yes, and it has planted a seed in the consciousness of humanity that the E.T. brother and sister, the majority of them have our best interest, and they see us as their little brother and sister. And they, you know, sometimes they think we're a little bit immature, you know, but they love us very much, and they want to share with us how we can move forward. And just to end that question, we are all time travelers. Where do you think you are going when you are sleeping at night, when you dream?
Muy bueno.
Nothing else to say, everything is set up. So, I agree with them.
Tenemos 10 minutos, vamos con preguntas porque si no... Adelante, caballero.
Hola, buenas tardes. Lo mío no era una pregunta, era una acotación, una aclaración. Es decir, nuestro cuerpo debe ser tratado no como una cárcel, sino como un templo para estos tiempos. Y una cosa importante es la meditación y la oración, porque la oración nos pone en contacto con lo divino fuera de nosotros. Si bien dirán tal vez todo está dentro, sí, pero bueno, nos pone en una posición de humildad ante el Dios de todos. Y bueno, este es un tiempo inédito en el cual somos llamados a conectar con nosotros mismos. No hay otra posibilidad, no podemos esperar salvataje de nadie de afuera. El mensaje es ser o no ser, como decía Shakespeare. Ahí radica toda la cuestión y la mejor protección es esa, es contactar con el amor y bueno, que sale desde nuestro corazón. La nueva telepatía es cardíaca, no es mental, es decir, la mente superior está en el corazón. Y bueno, de ahí parte todo y a eso somos llamados. El resto puede ser ayuda o no, pero es así.
Bueno, no sé si queréis comentar algo de su reflexión.
Sí, te contesto en inglés en orden de respetar el sistema. Listen, I agree with you. It's exactly as you said. But the only thing I would like you to notice is you said before, pray. To pray is to connect with the God. And after that, you said, is the time to connect with ourselves. God is within you. So don't think about God as something separate away from you. It's in you, within you. You're part of it. It's not something bigger than you. It's you. It's yourself. If you're able to understand, I applaud what you say about the temple. The body is a temple, not a jail. And if you're able to understand how big, how important, how great you are, and to act in the same responsibility, consciousness, and self-sufficiency to be a God, a responsible God, an example for the others with your own example, by loving yourself, by respecting yourself, by being coherent with your thought, and with your act. Everything said is the only thing I would put to add in order to your concept. But I love your concept. Just think about God as part of you, or you as part of God, and not something separated away from you. It's the only way I think is really working, in my opinion.
Vamos con una última cuestión.
Hi, so thank you for sharing your knowledge and your experiences. So I love to learn new things, but I also love to integrate them into my life. So I would ask you if you can share one practice that you think will help to connect with your true self and be more open to spirituality or the things someone loves, and just the practice that worked for you the most.
Connection with natural elements. Every element that we perceive, whether it's the sunlight or our water or the land, so much of it's been confiscated from our experience, and so we're used to this new synthetic world, and so anything that puts you back in touch with the natural world will put you in touch with your natural self. So number one, nature, and everything that entails: drinking the water, being in the sun, experiencing fire. All of those things will put you back into alignment to be able to truly perceive.
¿Alguna pregunta más?
Una pregunta, Josep. ¿Sabes si tenemos que ir a la...
Josep. No, pero ella quería dar su respuesta.
Perdón, sorry.
I think the best way to be more in connection with yourself is to look at the children. The children are my wisest teachers, because sometimes we can become very serious, and they're so playful. They're so forgiving, they're so present. They will tell you what they like, and they will tell you what they don't like. So, doing fun things, like for me, singing, for instance, has been a very big tool for me to be more aligned with my soul, because when you are singing, it's about self-expression. And again, we can look around us, we can look to nature, as Bridget said. Nature is the master teacher. when we look at the flower, its nature is to blossom. It does not say, well, am I good enough to blossom? Maybe I should hide or something. It desires for you to smell its fragrance. It puts itself on display so that you can appreciate its beauty. And this is something for all of us to remember, because it's only distortions and fear that prevent us from really shining like the flowers that we each are. In a garden, there are many flowers, but the flowers do not fight amongst themselves about which one is the most beautiful. It's something for us all to remember. We are all unique and special and have wonderful gifts to share. So find a way that is most joyful and in resonance for you.
Qué bueno, yo creo que es un magnífico consejo para terminar esta mesa redonda. Gracias, Bridget, gracias, Hanovi, gracias, Daniel.
Thank you, Joseph.